My name is Michael Krulik. I'm a solution specialist, as the title says in our org chart. I'm a demo guy. I have been demoing Media Composer I've been with Avid for 15 years now. Wow. So seen a lot of changes over the years. So I am going to talk about version 8.8.1, 8.8.1, which is the current release. 8.8.2 is actually on the way. Just to get a show of hands, who is using the latest version of Media Composer right now?
What is the latest? What is that?
8.8, 8.8.1 or 8.8.
I am 8 something.
Okay,
I
so
don't remember.
there's many 8s. They're different.
8.7.
8.4, 8.5, 8.5. How about before 8? Anybody on like a version 7? Don't be shy. There you go. How about 6? Wow. I'm going to go back. How about 5? I know there's somebody.
I hope I'm more.
There you go. All right. So, or 4. Wow, really? Actually, my brother just sent me a Meridian system that he found in one of his friends. I know, one of his friends' attic.
Stable like a rock.
Right? Exactly. Does anybody want it? You know, right now, it's just in the time capsule that I have. So
4.5 doesn't have to have like all the system in it. You have the $100,000 system
right.
to run.
I mean, you had the old Macs or the
Mac,
the
right.
amp,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, Avid definitely has been, changing through the years. So again, I'm going to show you 8.8, but I am going to also talk about features that are included in the software, going back to version 8 and version 7, and things like that, because a lot of times engineering and designers will put things in that people didn't know you could do.
Hidden
that are
features.
there. The little hidden features, right. So tips and tricks. So again, it's not going to be totally structured, but I do want to go through and give as much information as I can. So starting out, everyone knows the select a project window. Something that we have added in the project window, if I go to new project, so I'm going to be moving around here a little bit. Okay, new projects. 2K, 4K, UHD. So higher than HD. We can do higher than HD projects. I don't know if many of you have experimented with anything higher than HD. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the codec or the format that you're trying to use. Also depending on your PC or your Mac and the power that has. So, you can work 2K, 4K. I did talk to an editor who said he did a complete TV show in 2K on Media Composer working with raw media, and it worked great. Other people, depending on their CPU, it might not. So we do have tools built into the software that you can use depending on how you're trying to work. So we'll try and hit on some of that. But what I also want to point out, besides the UHD, 2K, 4K, is custom. So if you didn't know this now, you can actually do custom raster formats now. So if you're designing for a double monitor display or for a theatrical presentation or for a conference that maybe has multiple monitors on a display, you can actually go to custom and type in a raster dimension up to 8K. So you can actually work 8K by 8K if you wanted to on your projects. And what you'll also notice is we have manage presets and save presets. So the nice thing about this is if I go to manage presets, this is where you can go in and create presets for these different formats. So just to show you how this works, if I go add, I can create a new preset. I can say that's going to be 8K, and I can come in and click, I think it's 7420, I'm just guessing it.
All the numbers in the world.
By something, and you can just type in whatever you want. You can change the aspect ratio, the frame rate, and even the color space. So you're creating a preset now that will come up in your list of project settings.
Nice.
So a nice new way that you can add any other format, again, up to 8K. I'm sure it'll be open to 16K or 32K or whatever one of those crazy new formats will be. But you can create and save in your view here. Let's say I want to do RGB 2020, 7024, and that now is saved if I go to my presets as a new option. Okay? I show people this and they're like, oh, so I can create a window to mimic a Snapchat window because I need to create video to go to a Snapchat on somebody's mobile device. So again, you can create even odd formats in the custom display, something that we couldn't do before. We were always locked into certain formats. Okay. Let me go into one of my projects here. All right, so Star Trek Into Darkness, we have some great footage here. By the way, if you're working on something, we're always interested in getting some new footage for demos. I'm always tired of using the same stuff over again, so always looking for new stuff. So to start out here, I want to talk about in your project window, things like your settings. One thing that we did add, everyone doesn't like them having to click each time. If I go and hit K for keyboard and hit the Enter key, it takes me to that option. Whereas now you don't have to click on your settings. A little shortcut, but something where I don't have to keep clicking. Hit the letter, it goes to it, hit Enter, and it will open up that option.
But you have to be on the setting
in the
tab,
settings
though.
window, correct.
In the same tab.
Another thing I want to point out is the Info tab. A lot of times if somebody says, what's your system ID? What's your license? What plugins do you have loaded? Or what options? Notice if I go to Info and scroll down, it gives me my system ID, my dongle information, it would give you your code, but it also gives me all of the Link or AMA plugins. So if you ever want to see or know if you have a certain plugin loaded, if you go to the Info tab, it actually will bring it up. Okay, another source of information, info. All right. So I did talk about things. If I go to my Format tab, you have your raster dimensions, depending on if you're using a different raster size. Sometimes you're shooting a shorter raster, XD cam, P2 may not be the full raster. You can actually display the actual raster. And then you have your color spaces. Now notice, I only have 2 color spaces available, RGB and YCDCR. I'm in an HD format. If I go and choose a higher format or a higher frame rate or option, let's say I go and change my format to be 2K, actually we'll do UHD. Now when I go to color space, I have more options. I know, right? When you wanted to get away from doing color correction, you just wanted to edit. Now you have to worry about all of this other stuff now, right? Well, now we work with HDR, the high dynamic range, the higher higher range color spaces. So you can actually set this up. The nice thing about this is if you are in an edit bay that has a P3 or a 2020 or a high HDR monitor, you'll actually be able to change your settings and it will change to that color space. So you'll actually be able to work and see
Exactly how it looks like.
Right. So that has been added to the software. Okay. Go back to HD. We also have, you may have heard of DNxHR. Okay, oh great, Avid made another codec. Basically, DNxHD only goes up to HD. So in order to create the efficient DNx codec that Avid can use in a higher resolution, that's the HR, DNxHR. So if I'm in an HD project and I take a look at a clip, let's see, this one right here, and I want to do a transcode, you'll see since I'm in an HD project, my transcode options are any of the HDs available. So you have DNx HD 36, ABC Intra, J2K, H.264, 1:1, ProRes. If I go and change my project to a higher high-res format, then we'll go up to UHD. Now when I look at that same clip and want to do a transcode, my options have changed to DNx HRs. So DNx HR LB, SQ, HQ, and HQX. So that's low bandwidth, standard quality, and high quality 10-bit. So they're equivalent to DNX HD, but they're now going to let you create something in 2K or 4K, but at a more efficient codec. So even like NBC and some TV shows that are actually delivering what you think is uncompressed HD, they're actually sending out DNX HD 145, and that's what you're seeing on TV. So you could work in a HR DNX codec and still deliver a high quality 2K or 4K or UHD deliverable. So there are ways that you can work DNX HR. Another thing I want to point out is depending on what you're setting up, keep sources frame rate or convert to project frame rate. So what we've done now is if you have a PAL clip and you want to maintain the PAL source, but you're cutting into a 23 or 59 project, you can keep the 25 frame rate and it'll speed up or slow down depending on how it's cut into your sequence. So you can actually modify your clips on transcode or even on the actual clip to keep its original frame rate or convert to the project frame rate. So again, depending on how you work or the look that you want. So a lot of people ask for that. What we also have in the project setting when you are working in a high res project is proxy. Now I did mention before that if you are working in 2K or 4K and you're trying to work with the raw media and it's not playing back right, again, we don't know what your CPU is, how much RAM you have, what format you're working with. You can actually go in and change to a proxy mode. I know Premiere, when you initially open it up, you try playing it back, it's defaulting to a proxy mode initially when you are working in it. So it can play right away. We are actually working in full immediately and you have to turn on proxy, which creates transcoded media on the fly to play back. It doesn't convert it. It's actually visually changing the display so you may be able to play back that stuff that you really couldn't play back at full res, totally independent of the display mode, the half yellow, half green, or full yellow or full green mode.
Wait. So you can actually have your raw thing, and if you put it on proxy, you would edit with.
You could edit in proxy mode, and that it may,
I don't need to transcode my.
It's another option. I'm not going to say you're not going to need to transcode, but let's say, I'll just show an example, or I'll try and show an example of what this means. Because again, this is the way that you could probably work in 2K or 4K RAW, do your edit, and then just switch it to full and do your export, or do your output.
Right. So is that something that would work?
That's something that could work. I'm not going to say it would work. It's a matter of the term I'm using.
You're such a lawyer.
Because it depends also on the codec and your system that you're trying to say. But the idea of proxy is to allow you to do that.
Okay.
So that we want you to be able to link to the media. And notice how I say link and not AMA. We've actually changed the term, so we're not AMA anymore. It's still actually AMA, but a lot of people were like, I don't understand what AMA is. Why do I have to AMA? You're just linking to the media. Yeah. So now it's a link option.
Right.
So it's the same as the green, yellow thing, but permanent.
It's actually different because you still can change the yellow-green mode. You still can change your display mode down here.
Right.
But what this is going to do is it's actually going to do an internal change to the graphics card that will allow you to play in a proxy mode. You may see a slight change to the quality because it is actually changing something on the graphics card end. If I go down to a 1/16 mode, you definitely will see a change because you'll see even in the quality at UHD, if I change this to a quarter quality, it's actually going down to 1920 by 1080. And if I go to 1/16, it's 960 by 540. So it is doing an internal switch to that media to let you play that back as you would want to. So
I'm sorry, I have one more question because
Yeah.
this is very intriguing. This coming summer, I'm going to be working on a project that my question is like, do I need to transcode the Alexa material into a smaller version in order to be editing, or can I just leave the thing it is and then work on proxy?
depending on, number one, if we have the correct Alexa linking software to let you link with the raw media, you may be able to switch on the proxy and work with it.
Because that makes a big difference with
Sure.
the storage that you need to get.
Exactly. And it also depends on your deliverable. If you don't
Right.
need to deliver the full 2K or 4K file, take it and transcode it into a more efficient HD
No,
format.
you still wouldn't, I still would need to deliver in,
Depending
well,
on
but the
what-
Alexa is actually 2K, the
Right.
classic. The
Depending
classic
on what
is
you're doing,
2K,
just think of
right.
an overall,
Right.
overall
But
quality.
the original things like, so, because that is very, very important. If that is actually a possibility of like, you have like a 2K from the Alexa, you don't need to transcode to get like an Atmos that needs to get the extra files.
Right, can everyone hear what
With that
she's saying
is-
also? I mean, as far as, but a lot of it also has to do with efficiencies of your environment that you're working in.
Right.
If you're working on a shared storage system, you don't want everybody working
Right,
with the
no,
same
no,
2K.
this is not gonna be a shared
So
storage. If it's just
not,
a single.
I would say try proxy. Otherwise, if it's shared, I would say you may be more efficient working with
Oh,
transcode
wow,
media.
that's a great thing. That's
So-
a really great thing.
So the way it works, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's a straight up hardware proxy. In other words, it's not caching files as you're playing, so when you go to play back the same piece, it's always being converted through the graphics card. It's not like how Smoke, like as you're in proxy, it would like be making proxy frames. Okay.
Correct, yeah, it's actually on the fly. So ideally, and this will take me into part of one of the things I wanted to show next, is the source browser. We changed a new way to look at your digital assets, at your media. So if I go to Tools, oops. If I go to the Tools menu, you're gonna see Source Browser. Source Browser is also, if you go to File and Input, Source Browser. So what we've done is we've changed to the link to media, or AMA link, and now that's all done in the source browser. And the source browser is a window in Media Composer, which lets you navigate to your ISIS, or I think you may have heard me now change the software. It's now called Nexus for the hardware. And that's not just because of the name.
I changed all the time.
It was one of the reasons, but it's actually a new bit of hardware. It's new hardware, it's more efficient, you get more bandwidth, more customer, more client connectivity, more modularity. So it is a different storage system called Nexus, which by the way is the next generation intelligent storage, Nexus. So now everything is Nexus, it's not ISIS, which is nice also.
And before ISIS was
Unity.
Unity, yeah.
So say I'm tired of feeling like my emails are getting pinged every time I'm like, I love ISIS. You know, I'm getting trained on ISIS. Okay, Ted.
Another rabbit tail.
Right. So in the source browser, if I go to let's go to the desktop, and I want to look at some Black Sails 2K media. You'll see here I have the MOV file. I can click. Notice how when I hover, I'm doing a hover scrub. People like Premiere. If I don't get to do this, why can't Avid? Well, we can. We do it now. So the hover scrub is just allowing you to preview just by clicking and moving over that clip. I could click on it and hit play. It also does the same thing. So the nice thing is I'm looking at my shared storage, I'm looking at an attached drive, I'm looking at my internal system to decide on what I want to link to or import before I make that decision. Whereas before you had to import and go, oh, I didn't want all that. Now this is letting me do a preview. And you have your little breadcrumbs here so you can actually move back and forth. If I want to take this 2K file and I want to link to it, you can see I have link selected. If I want to import, I click import, and that's where I can choose what I want to convert it to. A little side note, if you haven't known this before, I could click import and let it import, but I'm sitting and I'm waiting. It's actually faster and more efficient to link and then transcode, because you can transcode in the background. So depending again on how you want to work, this is a nice way to preview. Yes?
Will you scrub it and have the marker show?
The markers will not show there unless they're marked and you bring it into the source window. So if I double click on it or drag it up here, notice I can preview it, but it's actually not part of my project yet. It's another way that I could preview. If I have hardware selected and I'm playing it here in the source browser, it'll actually play out through hardware. So I can see it to my full screen monitor. If I click here, it'll play out on my full screen monitor. But now if I actually want to link to it, I click on link, and if I hit the gear, it lets me choose all of my link options. So again, you don't have to go out and back into settings and change all that. You can do it all within this one window. All right, link options, mounting, metadata, quality, whatever you want. So if I want to link, and now I can say, I want to link to a what bin? Create a new bin or an active bin. I'll say new bin, I hit link, and now here's my new bin with the file linked to it. Okay? Now, this is playing back well. I have, a decent Mac laptop, it's 2K, but if I now go and say turn this into proxy, it's now at a quarter res. I'm now scrubbing that exact same clip at a quarter res proxy. If I go and change this to 1/16th, or the lowest proxy, you may see it's a little softer, but now it's playing at 1/16th the quality. So it's the exact same clip, but proxy is being turned on to let me possibly play something back that I couldn't play at high res.
And there's no frame dropping or anything like that?
Nope. Again, depending on the quality, because even if I switch to quarter, depending on if it's a real beefy, hard to play back
8K
codec,
or something.
it might be, so I may go down to 1/16th to play it back. Yes.
So I had this 2K project like when I first got 8 and I didn't quite understand it all. So I brought in all the media at 2K because they weren't sure if they're going to finish.
Right.
And instead of using proxy, I would switch the preset to 1920 and I would go back and forth. And then when I went to go finish it, I went back to the. So what's different between doing that and using the proxy?
Well, this will actually let you work in 2K. So if you go back to HD, it's just going to go down to an HD frame size, because then if you do anything like frame flex or anything, it's going to scale it down to an HD window. So it all depends on if you want the full range of the 2K shot that you only want to extract HD, or do you want to work in complete 2 or 4K and work with that full image.
So preset will allow you to do that.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's either way. It depends on what your deliverable is going to be. I mean, you could switch back and forth and still work efficiently.
But the frame flex thing was like making extra work where I didn't need to necessarily
Correct.
have to.
Which is what's going to happen, because ideally what a lot of people are doing is they're shooting 2K or 4K because they want to be able to extract multiple HD shots from one take, which that's the efficiency there. But if you do want to work 2K or 4K throughout the entire thing, link to it. If you switch to an HD project, because again, if I'm working in UHD and I just change this to HD, it's now changing everything and putting it down to an HD space, and I can still edit the 2K, but it's just pushing it down into a smaller format. And then switch it back and output it. So again, I know it's kind of confusing because you're like, well, how do I work? You have all these different options, but it depends on what's going to work best for you, how you're going to be able to play back your media.
And what's your system availability?
Right, and what your system's capabilities are. So, yes.
When you're in proxies, is there a warning, or do you need to put it at the full resolution to export, or like say work on like any visual effects?
I wish there was, but a lot of times, again, because you're setting it, you think you're going to be in that format.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know what you are delivering or not.
Yeah.
What you can always look at is if I go back to UHD, and if I have a sequence or timeline with something created, you'll see right here in your timeline now, it's showing you what format you have. So if I have this changed to proxy, you'll see that actually changes to let you know that you're in quarter res.
Okay.
So it's telling
So
you.
there's an indication, but there's nothing that's going to go, hey, don't export yet because you're not in full res.
But just check.
Just something to be aware of.
Now, like in terms of if you do any like small visual effects or corrections or anything, will those translate when you take off the proxy?
Correct. Yes, they will. Absolutely.
Can we import EXR from the 80s?
EXR, I think you have to go through another program to do that, to convert, because we can't read it directly.
How about a free bag?
A free bag? Just for that? Well, we'll see if we win one. We'll talk later.
I have a stupid question related to this, I guess. So it's displaying whether you have proxy turned on or not, as opposed to like the timeline the sequence has a setting, and that setting is UHD, let's say.
Correct.
It changes depending on whatever you have set somewhere else.
Right. It changes
Okay.
because your project is set to UHD,
Uh-huh.
but your format setting is for display set as proxy. So you're looking at a proxy of the image in a UHD.
And if you're working in
Project.
true 4K, which is not 16:9, it wouldn't show 1920 by 1080? Or
If I was doing true 4K, let's say I create a project at true 4K. We're going to do project, call it 4K. We'll do DCI full at 23. Is it? So now I'm in a 4K project. Random changes. All right. We can take, let's look at some 4K media. See what's there. Oh, you know what? I don't think I have my red plugin in there. This is what I get for changing my format. Here we go. We'll go to, let's take this. All right, we'll just take this 2K stuff. So this is 2K in the 4K project. All right. So that will still play. You'll see here when I cut this into my sequence, I'm at 4K. I can still turn on my proxy, which is now
Nice.
at, it's not 1920
Okay.
because it's quarter
So it's
is
based
of
on the-
4K.
okay.
Yeah,
So it's based on the project, so.
correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Cool. So we can go back and revisit this. I didn't know we'd spend that much time on this, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Just a little curious, because I just did a 4K project, well, 5K material from Red, but 4K.
Uh-huh.
But, I just kind of did it in the old-fashioned offline and went to an online house. Are people not doing that
No,
anymore?
absolutely. I mean, the thing is, because everything can be done in so many of these systems now directly in here, you could deliver a 4K or 2K deliverable out of Media Composer. It also depends on, color. Is it going to color? Some people are still sending AAFs to Resolve. You can still send to other applications. A lot of times the editor working in Media Composer doesn't want to be the finisher. So they want to send it off to someplace else and let that work be done. So yeah, I mean, there definitely is still
I prefer
work.
that.
Right, right. It's like, I don't want to do 3D. I don't want to do color.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about with mixed media?
Mhm.
Where you have like 1080, 23, 1080, 30, you have iPhone footage, and you have somebody came in with 2K
Right.
footage.
We can mix and match formats and frame rates now inside of Media Composer. Basically,
Now with 8.8 or even before?
actually even before. I think it
Since
was
when?
version 4. God, going back to 4. Is that when we introduced mix and match?
4?
When you could take any media, maybe not 4.
No.
But there was a mix and match option where you could take, if you were in a 23.9 project, you could take a 59.9 clip or 25, drop it into your sequence, and it would put an adapter on that clip to match to the current project. And it was automatic. Rather than getting wrong format, can't put this in, we were doing a mix and match. One thing we've done now is, I think you may have seen, if I right-click on my source window, we have source settings. So we now can go in, and there's a third tab, which is playback rate. So on the source, I could say, keep the clip's frame rate, or change to the project's frame rate on the source side.
How
So
does that affect what ends up coming out in the end, deliverable? I mean, it doesn't ultimately, it's going to play in one frame rate, right?
right, and you'll be able to see when you cut it into the sequence how it's going to be affected, and then you can put a motion adapter on that depending on how you want to work it.
Well, that was actually my next question, was less about motion, but more like just format different. Like I'm currently working on something that's got, was shot 2K, but has a ton of archival, like SD archival stuff. And unfortunately, I'm not working in Avid on this thing, but I'm just curious with this.
Welcome.
That's my call. But I'm just curious, this how would you describe it, adapter that gets put on for sort of real-time playback in a mixed format timeline, how accurate is that visual of what it's going to ultimately look like in the end.
It was actually extremely accurate.
Okay.
I mean, if you put a clip on there and play it, it'll actually play in whatever setting you have. So you'll actually see the speed and be able to adjust it accordingly. I mean, practically instantaneous. Again, if I was to bring in other formats here, and again, this is on the source side, you could still do something on the sequence side and drop a clip in and put an effect on it and make changes and stuff like that. So it's up to you on how you want it to work, but anything you put into the timeline and play it out, that's the way it'll play out. Okay? Just out of curiosity before I move ahead, anybody have any questions, or is everybody familiar with the way you work with LUTs, color, and frame flex?
I'm confused.
You're confused? All right. Well, we'll just do a little overview on that.
Yeah.
So we've added in Media Composer some really great options, because you might be working in a project that is HD, but I'm going to go ahead and open up a set of clips that are higher than HD. So I'm going to go to Source Browser. I'm going to go back to Black Sails. We'll take these two clips and we'll link to those. Let's see if I go to, take a couple more of these, some drone footage. What do I have? I thought I had more. We'll just link to one of those. So here I have a couple of clips. Here I have the Black Sails. I want to go in now on that Black Sails clip, and if I right click, we have source settings. So on the source side of these clips, I can go in and change a look. I can add a look on the source side. I can also do what we call frame flex. And the nice thing about that, the color encoding are my looks. So how many times have you maybe gotten raw media and you just want to add a look to it? Or maybe somebody said, I have a lookup table, I shot it in the camera, can you apply it to your media here? Yeah. A lot of times you may already get that delivered. There's somebody else who created the media and the look you want, and they're just handing you a drive of media. But what we can do here is I can say, I'm working in the Alexa log C color space, automatically add, you'll see here, it automatically add the log C Direct 709 look. Because a lot of times that metadata is saved on the clip when it is shot. So when you link to it, it's going to go, okay, automatically add the look to it. If I delete, just move this over so you can see, whoops, something's open. There we go. Just want to scrub here to another part of the clip. Right here. So if I take away or delete, that is the raw color. Again, that metadata is automatically added, and that's a selection. You can actually say to automatically add the look or not. But I can then say, I want to add what lookup table to that. So that could be from any other camera, it could be from Red, it could be from Canon, it could be from ARRI. Or I could say, automatically look at the color space that I'm in and automatically add the look, add the color, and you'll see that it changed. Yes.
Is the look transcoded in at that point once you do that, or?
You could bake it in, or you could say, create the transcode without the LUT.
Ah, okay.
Again, depending on how you work. There's also an option now, because a lot of times the color correction house, the post facility that's going to actually do the color correction, wants all colors stripped from the sequence. There's actually a button now that says strip all color, and then you can create an AAF or a sequence that will let them, work their magic. But the idea here is, how do you want to edit? Do you want to apply the color? Do you want to go to Resolve, create a look, and apply it? Because you can, down here, you see where it says Color Management Settings? I can select a LUT that's been given to me and now apply that.
Will it slow my system?
It will not. Excuse me. It will not slow your system down.
So it's better to just like cut with a LUT in it.
It's nice to have a LUT because it's going to be as true to the real image as possible.
Right.
So again, it
But it's
depends on.
removable once I go finish.
Right, it is removable, which is nice, because any of these source side effects are non-destructive. You can apply them and reapply them anytime, even if the cuts are already in your sequence.
Right.
Yes.
I know in 8.3 you could not multi-group cameras that have LUTs. Have they fixed that?
I honestly would have to check, so I don't know. I would assume there's been enough versions in between there, but let me just make a quick note of that and find out. So it's multi-groups and LUTs weren't working?
Is it with same lots or different lots?
I'm sorry?
Do they
Yeah.
have different lots or same lots?
Same LUT. Yeah, it just, Avid would not let you multi-group any footage that had LUTs on it and play. You had to take them all off.
So yeah, I can check on that. So the other option here, I'll try to just move on ahead, is the frame flex. And frame flex is something that we talked about earlier, where you're shooting 2K or 4K, you're working in HD and you want to extract smaller segments or more points of interest to maybe create multiple takes from one shot. So what you had is your frame, this is your result, and you also have your sizes. So what you'll see is it is a 2K format, but if I say the size matches the project raster, that's actually more of the HD extraction of the 2K format. So what you're seeing is I've taken a small area of the 2K, that's the final result, but I still have full latitude to change and do pan and scan or keyframes or anything around that full 2K shot. Okay? So I can choose that area, I say apply, and now if you take a look at the image here, you'll see it's a much tighter shot. And if I take this segment and drop it into my sequence, you get a marker. And by the way, these icons here, S and C, spatial, and color, that's telling me that there's a frame flex on it and a LUT. Before that was just a green dot. What is that? I have no idea. Is it rendered? I don't know. Real time? So yeah, that marking is now telling me that there is a source side effect on there. Again, if I didn't do frame flex, it would just see C because that's the LUT that's applied to that.
The advantage of doing frame flex is it looks better than traditional blow-up, right?
Correct. It gives you, if you're working 2K or 4K and you cut that into an
Yeah.
HD, you're not going to lose quality because it's actually just doing an extraction of the higher res image. Yes?
Will the frame flex keep it so that you don't push too far in, that you're losing resolution? Like, will it go down only to a certain size?
Now,
and then
it'll
lower?
let you go down as small as you want.
Okay.
So you do want to be aware of that. That's why it's nice if you select the size to project's raster. At least you'll know if you're going smaller than the real raster size of the project. Yes?
Can I have more than one clip from the same frame flex file?
Absolutely. Can you have more than one clip from the same frame flex? Let me know if this is answering your question. If I go back to my bin and I select 2 clips, go to source settings, do a frame flex or a color encode, what you'll see on the bottom here is apply to all, or just apply, that'll take you to the next one.
The same clip, can I have more than one size?
Same clip, can you have more than one size? I would duplicate. Because what happens is, and again, depending on how you work, if you cut the same clip into the sequence, you can go into each clip and change the framing if you want, but you do want to be careful on the source side because there's an option to refresh your entire sequence by any source side change. So let's say later you decide I want to do a different framing on the same clip. If you say refresh your sequence, it's going to go to every clip that has it and it's going to adjust them. So you do want to be aware of that. One thing that also will help with that is if I go in and go to do a transcode, look at these 2 options here. When you do your transcode, do you want to apply the color encoding and or the frameplex? I've had people call me up and say, hey, you know, I added a nice look to my clip on the source side, but when I transcoded it, that color didn't go over because they didn't have that checked. So if you do want to create new framings and you want to transcode those, and you want to keep the framing, put frameplex on. That way, bless you, it'll create new media of the different framings.
And is that baked in?
That'll be baked into that, yes.
Would this be then a source fix then for when you get a camera safe? And normally you would get dailies cut into the camera safe, but you actually want the full raster?
That's possible,
And
yes.
so if you source everything with the frameplex, then on a match frame, would it bring you back?
It would bring you back to the
full frame or
original
the
clip.
frameplex?
It'd bring you back to the original clip. Unless you've done a transcode of the frameplex and you've cut that in. So again, it's gonna match back to what you originally have set it to. But if you do a match back to something you frameplex, it'll go back to the original frameplex. And again, that whole image is still there. So if I go in and take this frameplex, and I've cut that into my sequence here, if I go to, oh, that's a really small clip. Here we go. If I go to my effect editor, what you'll see is I have the color adapter and the frameplex on that. But if I go in to change that frameplex, all right, what you're seeing is full and the result. So if I want to go in and keyframe, you'll see I can add keyframes, I can zoom in, I still can go in and change any of those.
That's strange that is the other way. Shouldn't be the other way. That is the source that you do the thing and
I think it's just because in effect mode, that's where your effects always are. Yeah, and it's interesting how it took the color off too, which I'd never seen before, so that might be a bug, or by design.
When you bake in your color or your flex frame, and if you're doing offline, online thought process, you can still AMA back to your original clip and it's non-destructive, right?
Yes, exactly. And also, if you do frameplex and do an AAF to a third party, the frameplex will follow as well. Okay? Cool. Wow.
So in the effect editor, if you deselect the effect, do you have to re-render if you then you put it back on?
Well, a lot of this is real time, so I should be able to play any of that.
If it's real time, but you have the
Right.
effects stacked that they are rendered, and you just like take it out, you have to redo it.
Right. If you to make a
Re-render.
change, you're gonna have to re-render.
No. If you just want to deselect some of the effects, you want to deselect some of the effects because you want to see some of the effects on his own. Then you have, and then you turn them back on. Then you have to re-render.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, a lot of effects it will remember the renders there.
Yeah.
Because they're cached.
Right.
Depending on what you want to do, but depending on the effect, a lot of it's real time, so it may not even matter. Okay, I just want to move ahead a little bit. I can't believe we're almost at noon and lunch should be here soon. Yay! Let's see. Who here has used ScriptSync? Who's happy it's back? Just so you know, a lot of people talk about ScriptSync and scripting. You know, we have scripting, which has always been there, even after version 7, it was the manual process of doing the scripting. ScriptSync is using a technology which actually looks at the waveforms and matches what's being said to the written word. So if you haven't seen this, it's phenomenal. So I'm going to show a little bit of ScriptSync if you want to see that. We've also made some nice changes. So even though we've reintroduced ScriptSync and PhraseFind to Media Composer, we've actually made some nice additions, which hopefully are a nice little ooh-ah moment for you all. So let's take the scene from Star Trek. Here I have a group shot.
target was a Starfleet data archive, now it's a damned hole in the ground and 42 men and women are dead.
God, I want his voice.
Yeah, dude, it was one of our own.
Get a cold.
I know, right? Or speak aloud, right? So you have a script, and by the way, if you didn't know, if you use Final Draft actually has a save as Avid option in it. And all it does is it's saving a text file. So you can even type up something and do a .txt file, and you'll be able to import that into Media Composer. So the way script sync and scripting works is you go to File, New, bless you, and then you select New Script. Bless you. Also, did anybody notice that menus have changed a little bit?
Yes.
The designers decided that, we want to redesign the menu. We want to make it easier for...
They are deserved.
I laugh as well. Easier for Media Composer editors because we've consolidated stuff, where a lot of the inputting is here, output, and media, so you're not hunting around. So even when I got the latest release, I was like, on a PC, but I always find this is helpful, is if you go to Help, and where it says Search, you just start typing in a word. It actually brings up the menu options, and if you just hover, it actually points out where it is. It's not an Avid thing. I will not let Avid take credit for that. It's a Mac OS thing, but a lot of times when you are trying to find something now, especially since it's moved, it's just a nice little tip to, help you find where stuff is, like setting font size, because I'm old and I need larger font now with everything. New script. I want to add a new script to my project. So new script, I'll go to my desktop, and here I have the scene from Star Trek. Be seated, you all heard what happened in London, the target was a Starfleet, spelling error, Starfleet data archive. What happened in London? Where have you been? You smell like cats. Gripping dialogue. So what we can do with script sync is highlight the script. Now this is all set up. I know that all of these takes, there's like 9 or so takes, 3 cameras per take. I'll take all of these. This is actually an hour and a half of footage. And you just point to the area where you want that dialogue to sync. Okay? One thing we changed is these are now 16 by 9. Yay! Even though you're working in HD, they were 4 by 3 in display, so that's one thing we changed. So now what I do is I go to the option here for script, and you'll see script sync is now back. It's now something that you can select. So under script sync, this is where you choose the language you want to script, that you want to sync. So if you have something in other languages, there's actually a pack of media languages that you can download and apply to whatever you have. Yes. Plus, you'll see here that it's only one track of audio. Skip lines that contain capital letters. Those are normally the names of the characters. We don't want to sync those. Skip text in parentheses are normally actions. We don't want to sync those. Select the dialogue. Right now it's saying the dialogue indent is at 1 character. If I go to select dialogue, all you do is you choose a line where the dialogue is, hit OK, and it now tells me that that is 25 characters in. So don't sync anything before those 25 characters. When you say OK, watch what happens as script sync, come on, hopefully start syncing. It's always the first one. It's been a while. There we go. It should be more than that. Oh, I know why. Because I only chose 1 camera angle. I just scared myself thinking it's not working. Yeah, you have to choose all of the angles you want to sync. This is much more exciting. And you'll see it's going to be much faster. As now, it starts marking where every line of dialogue is in the script. Okay, yes?
One problem before, there's workarounds in a way, but so many takes have multiple takes within a take,
Yeah.
and it didn't
It doesn't take that into
indicate that in
consideration.
any way possible.
Right.
Does it indicate that now?
It is still the case. I mean, I'm not gonna say that this fixes everything. There still are some things you still need to, if there's multiple takes, you would have to subclip those and then drag each subclip over for the syncing. So, is it perfect? No. Does it help with a lot of stuff? Yes, because you still may need to finesse some of this a little bit. Again, it's gonna get you close. So with each of these marked, if I now double click where he says Tom Harwood, Lieutenant with a dozen years, right here, I double click, it actually loads that clip up, and I play it.
Tom Harwood, Lieutenant with a dozen years in.
Okay? Took me right to that line of dialogue. Pretty cool. All right? What's also cool, because this is now lined, is you want to listen to every performance. This is actually a cool little trick. If I highlight just these marks here, watch what I can do. We'll just take a few of these. Actually, we'll do a couple lines right here. So I've just grabbed these 5 takes. I can now hit the play button.
Tom Harwood, Lieutenant with a dozen years in. Good man. Tom Harwood, Lieutenant with a dozen years in.
I'm now listening to every performance.
Oh my God.
Dozen years in. Good man.
I just got
They had this before, though. I mean, you could do this a long time.
You could do it before, but it's funny because a lot of people didn't know that. They're used to just clicking and doing that. But just to be able to hear each performance, and it highlights each one, so when you stop, that's the active clip that you can now cut in. Yes?
And can you still kind of nudge the locators up and down just to make sure you're on the first mile?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can still slide those, move them, whatever you want. The idea is, again, script sync allows you to get close, whereas you rather having to hit play and hit the mark every time you heard it and then nudge it. At least you can still do that. The nice thing here also is, if you didn't know, these marks in and outs can be used to actually start editing. So if you see I have nothing in my sequence, if I hold down a modifier, so we'll just see how close this is. It's on the Mac Option Command, and you'll see that the icon turns into a splice in icon. If I select and double click, choose a cut, I am now cutting a sequence from dialogue in the script. Let's see what this sounds like.
Dozen years in, good man, I'm told. So why would he, I'm told.
Whoops.
So why would he have 42 officers?
So again, you can still go in and trim it,
Yeah, of
but
course.
by the script you can get,
A rough cut.
Yeah.
That you can.
Now, this is something that's new. This is all stuff that we could have before. You could also go in, and if there's dialogue off screen, let's say, you hold a clip down here, you select that portion, and you hit the little squiggle marks up here. I've now indicated what's off-screen dialogue. And we've also added more colors. So if you select an area that you want to color code, if I come up here, script, and say color, choose a color. You can actually color code a region. Oh, come on. It was working before. Should color. There we go. So you can mark things in your script that maybe you want to look at later, or color correct, or go to audio or something. You can add color and a variety of different colors there. So the big thing, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Does it probably still can't do this. I'm thinking of AI maybe, but does it indicate like ad lib lines in any way?
That's a great lead-in to what I'm going to show you now.
Oh, good. Okay.
Because we know that there's always ad libs, and
Yes.
we could never cut those into the script. You'd have to go out, create something new, and re-import it. But wait, right here, if I click here, this is now an active live clip. So if I want to change Starfleet to Starfleet, I can retype and add new lines of dialogue in my script and then just resync.
That's great, because that was always...
And you lose the other stuff though?
No. I mean, all this stuff will still be there, but you can just say, just resync this area.
So it doesn't push it down. You have to go in and resync that.
You can resync it, but if the ad lib was, you heard what happened in London, it was awful,
You input the script, which you get from the script department, right?
you know, you can go in and tab and resync, you know, whatever you want. You couldn't do this before. This was never a live document. So if, you know, anybody ad-libbed, if there's any improv, you'd have to go out of the program, retype the text file, re-import it, and resync.
Yeah, the line script would have it, but it wouldn't have been, it wouldn't be tagged.
This isn't changing the actual original text file, so just be aware of that. It's changing just this script
This-
right here.
The imported part.
Correct. Yes.
But if you add lines to it, it's shifting all of the script, all the synced below it. Or do you have to resync the entire document?
Those will actually still be sunk up with
Okay, so
those.
They move it down.
Right.
They conform it.
But I would just say, grab this area, and if I said, you know, highlight, whoops, you have to make sure you go out, highlight that, and when you go to script sync, oh, come on,
You have to have the indent the same as the other ones though, right? Because you said 25 characters in, and you're one frame
Right.
out.
Yeah, I mean, you could move that one more over, or resync that. But there's an option in script sync to overwrite existing marks or sync in between the first and last mark. So you can then choose and say just resync. And again, it's all fast. So I mean, an hour and a half took of media, which all that was, took 20 seconds of that to sync. Bless you. So again, this is something new. And also, as far as the option of editing, this magnifying glass, and by the way, this was incorporated because you can now do this in the list tool. The EDL Manager and Film Scribe is a live document that lets you edit and change stuff in the EDL Manager, or list tool as we call it now. So if I go to the magnifying glass, this is now find and replace. So if I find that, wait, I don't want Kirk to be saying that, I want Spock to be saying it, I can go and say find all of the Kirks and replace them all with Spock. Find and replace all, so now all of Kirk is Spock. So
And if
again,
you're looking for a line of dialogue in the entire script, when they say you're dead, you just do the find, and then it gets in the in that part of the script.
you can do that here, or if you do a standard find on the Mac, it's Command F or Control F on a PC. We now have the find script text. So if I say I want to find anything having to do with London, in the script I go find, it actually brings up London, London, London in the script. And if I double click on that, it brings up London where we are in the script. Yes.
Is there any reason why that wouldn't work? But right now, I think we're like on maybe like 8.4 on my show, and we have not been able to get that to work, that feature to work.
The script sync or the find?
The find.
Find should work because that's independent of script sync. Because find, if you go to the find tab for script text, it should find it if it's been sunk. If not, let me know afterwards, or we can take a look at that. But it should, that should work. The other option there with script sync is phrase find. Does anybody use phrase find? Phrase find, if you don't know what this is imagine you have an entire show, an interview. You don't have a transcription, but you know that somebody said this one line or said this one word. So I could have all of my bins closed, and I want to find any time they say the word Starfleet. If it's spelled right. No. It's actually phonetics. This is actually using a phonetic search. So I type in the word Starfleet, and this is in clips and sequences. And if it's licensed, I click on phrase find, and it's now searching through all of the media in the project. And it's going to bring up anytime it thinks it finds a phonetic match with somebody saying the word Starfleet.
with accents?
It's actually phonetics. So even if there's an accent, if you can type it in with an accent, it'll try and find you. It's true. I mean, if I did something, we were looking for a Hebrew word. If you phonetically type out the Hebrew word, it will do its best to match that word. What you'll also see here is score. The higher the score, the more likely it thinks it found a match for that. So I want to listen to where somebody says Starfleet right here. I double click. It loads it up.
And this is from when? From 8 when?
This is phrase find. So
From
it was in
8.
version 7 and now 8.8.
Okay, from 7 on?
No, it stopped at 8, so we had it up till 7.
Oh, okay.
And now we reintroduced this with script sync and phrase find in 8.8.
8.
Now again, these are options. They are a paid option. They're not that much. You can buy a bundle or you can buy them individually. I think phrase find is $2.99 maybe. Don't quote me on that. That's why I don't do real sales. But the cool thing here is, again, I can just double click.
Starfleet data. Starfleet.
So imagine, you don't know where this is. You used to have to load in a clip and play it until you think you found the place where they might have said it.
Can you get that bundle for something that's before 8.8?
No.
8,
It's not available
7,
until
no?
8.8.
Oh.
This is one of the big things. We actually bought the engineers and the technology to do this, so nobody else can do this. All right, a couple things I did want to mention. The questions came up about compatibility with versions of software and Composer or CPUs. Look at Avid's website all the time because we're constantly updating what will and won't work and what we do support and don't support. So there is a web page talking about OS and Media Composer version matrix. So with the latest release, the date, support with GPUs and drivers, OS support with Windows and Mac. Notice we don't go back to 10.9 anymore. I actually, unfortunately, had to update even my laptops because I was still on 10.9.5. So I'm up to LCAP 10. We do support Sierra on the Mac side, but you do want to be careful because when new versions of Sierra come out, we may not be, at least at the beginning, supporting the latest versions. So even if you get new computers, you want to be careful of that. I also want to point out another great resource. Has anybody seen or known or used Freddie Links? Freddie Links, Freddie is a support person who basically updates this website all the time. It has videos of latest versions of, pointing out some training links, workflows, installation guides, and things like that. So FreddieLinks.com is always a great resource about it. You'll see, installation guides, workflows, talking about Nexus, Interplay, things with Pro Tools. But you'll also see videos like the latest versions, people who are moving from Adobe, working with Adobe, things like that. So I like to plug that as well. All right, let's get back to some software. So how was the first part? Was it good? Did everyone learn something?
Yeah.
All right, just want to make sure that this is a benefit. Otherwise, I'll be very upset. So let's see, I was jumping around a little bit. God, really didn't go into some of the basics. Some things that we've added in Media Composer are certain sifting and searching tools. So you'll notice in the bin, you have this little magnifying glass. These are ways to sift and sort in your bin. You'll see them in your project. You'll also see it in the timeline. So how many times have you had like a bin just full of clips and you want to find, bless you, just one of them? Like I want to find all of the 56M clips. So notice how I just sifted here and it sifted out everything to find just certain clips that I'm looking for.
Just in that bin or the whole project?
Just in that bin. You also have in the project, I mean, I know that, this is very easy. I'm just demoing, so I usually only have, 4 or 5 bins, but I'm sure many of you have like hundreds of bins probably that are open. So if you go to the search here, if I want to find just my clips, it'll actually sift out to find just a bin, and those are even bins and folders. It'll search for them. Okay? So again, a nice way to sift and sort. Also, you'll see that in your effects palette. You have a lot of effects. I wish we could change the font of those because that's kind of small. But you'll see here that we've actually divided up effects into certain groups. So we have our filters, we have transitions, we have audio track and audio clip effects. So that's one way to, sort out your clips. If I want to find all of my dissolves, I type in DISS, and you'll see it starts sifting out just the dissolves in there. So again, a nice way to search through all the effects that you may have. Okay. In your bins, one thing that we changed is how many times, do you set up custom views?
Yes.
You know your views down here? You set up a view, but you always don't have the view active that you want all the time. One thing that we added in the bin settings is set default bin view. Wow, I'll tell the designers that was a hit. So yeah, you can set up a...
So that's when you make a new bin, it defaults to that, or anytime you open a bin?
A view.
New bin. Yep.
A new bin, good, great.
So that'll set your new bin view. Check. Good.
Yeah, but what about, so is every bin is gonna be on that view?
Just when you open it, when you set it,
Right.
set a new one.
Because certain bins you want different
Right,
view.
and then you can go down and change
Yeah.
any of those. The idea is you always want to be, instead of the
So
default one that
this is
Avid
a
makes.
general, it's not by bin.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, you still will go in and change that. Cool.
Is that user-based?
Yes, it should be. If I look at, yeah, because that's all set by bins and bin views, that's all user. Cool. Other things in bins, when you go to create custom columns, they want to create custom columns?
Yes.
Remember you used to have to go all the way to the end and hit the I and type it in and then move it around? Well, if you point to your column and right click, add custom column, appears immediately after.
Nice.
Another one.
Right after that one.
Is there an easier way to reorder the columns? We've got like 400 columns of custom data.
Right.
Literally, we're like dragging them like 20 at a time over, and it's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's still the case as far as reorganizing the view. I'd say put that as a feature request, a better way to, customize or organize your columns. Maybe a window that comes up that you can just create and save that as a look. Yes?
Sorry, I'm just going back to the searching within a bin. Something that we noticed, it doesn't seem to, I would assume that it would be the same as sifting in a bin, but it's not. Like, is there a reason for that? Like, for example, my editor was using the old function, going up to bin, new sift by select whatever and typing in the old way. And I was showing her you can now just search with magnifying glass in the bin. But because she'd already sifted, when she tried to search, which wouldn't come up. So they're not exactly the same.
Yeah, I think because they're two independent searching tools. I mean, you can sift and filter. I don't think that they're not compatible. I mean, they're not going to know that one or the other is selected. I mean, even when you do the sift there's many times where I forget I've sifted that, and I'm like, where'd my clips go? Start freaking out for about maybe 10 minutes, and then realize that I have a sift on the bottom there. So, I mean, it is stuff you still unfortunately need to be aware
So
of.
within the sift thing, you cannot do other stuff. You cannot search within the sift.
The sift, the standard sift.
Yeah. But can you move the columns also in the markers? Because I don't think I can. You can do it in the bins, but not in the marker window, can you?
I don't know. You cannot move them in the marker window.
No, and why is that? Because it's like the comments are like over there in China, and I need it here in LA.
I think just because that's a set window, again, that would be a feature request.
Yeah.
One thing also with your custom columns, and some people didn't know this, if you start typing in like location, New York, China, anything there. If you hold down a modifier, that's option, you get a list that you can
Like
just
Excel,
simply.
right?
Hold down which
That's option or alt, option. Another thing is if you select multiple clips, they can even be, all over the place. If you right click on your custom column, you'll get a set location, because it knows the column you're on, column for selected clips to be, and now you can type in a whole thing, and this can be London. Spell it right. So now, anything that's highlighted has them. So you don't have to do individual ones. Do a multiple select, right click, and select them all to be that. So again, another little thing that's been in there for years. People didn't know you could do that. Okay? Another thing, and I'm sorry, I always show this because it's always a go-to as far as cool tricks. Oh, by the way, did you know that if I take a clip and drag it to my timeline and slide up, it adds a new track?
I did it by mistake. I got it by mistake.
So very Final Cut-y, but people wanted it, so we added that.
But it doesn't do it with audio channels.
Actually, it does with audio.
It
Drag
does.
down.
That's how I find
But if
out.
you have, like you were just doing, you added 3 video tracks, but it put all the audio in the same audio
Right,
track.
if you want to, it depends on where you split it. If you're on audio and you bring it and slide it,
Right. Well, if you really want to be Final Cut,
it would actually split it. Okay. So we're partway there. We're Final Cut-ish. But again, I mean, it was just something simple because people were like, I just want to be able to drag and add a track, but mostly everyone knows, Command Y, Command U. So this is something I always show. We have, of course, on multiple tracks, different clips. And I'm sorry if I repeat myself to those. This, again, is something I always show, but people didn't know you could do this. If you wanted to do a match frame on any of these clips, everyone is used to deselecting the track and then hitting match frame on the active board.
Right.
Years ago, the engineers, the designers, put this little trick in so you don't have to do that. So I don't even have to have the active tracks active. So you position your CTI, blue line, current timeline indicator, where you want to match, and if you right click on the track name, you get match frame track. Ooh. It's a time saver. The nice thing is, again, the track does not even have to be active. Match frame track, match frame track, match frame track.
Yes.
That match frames wherever that is on whatever track you select and do a match frame on.
Is that a new feature of 8?
I think I hate to say it, I think it may have been in 3 or 4. I don't know when it happened, but I saw that one day and was like, why was this not like highlighted? Yes.
And if you can't just right click on the clip.
Correct. If you right click on the clip, it's not gonna give you that option because it has to be, you're selecting basically the track name that you want to do the match frame on. Now, if you're on Mac, all you have to do is hold down Command and double click on the track name and it does the exact same thing.
Oh.
Yes.
Just to backtrack a second. If you're using the magnifying glass in your timeline, exactly what are you sorting or sifting or looking for?
Good question.
Or what can you find using that feature?
Good question. Going back to the original magnifying glass thing, in your timeline, if you go to the arrow, you can choose to find resolution, clip name, timeline, clip notes, which renamed as comments, markers. You can find anything in the timeline.
Well, why did they rename it from comments? Because doesn't that work with EDL, the list?
I honestly don't know. This was actually in an 881. They said, have timeline clip notes. I'm like, isn't that comments? They're like, yes. So basically you have timeline clip notes and then the timeline clip notes come up. I think you get more information in there than the comments.
And that goes into the EDL?
Right.
I mean, that won't, yeah.
Right. Okay, so does that answer your question about the, okay, good. So match frame track is great.
Back to the
yes.
comments / timeline clip notes. I'm used to putting it in by, doing that.
Yeah.
And then going up actually to the top. The pull down menu on the record side, the timeline monitor. Go to the top of that. Yeah, there,
There?
yeah, click on, you see where it would used to say add comments.
Right. No more.
No more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So wait, how are you doing it now then?
So now when you go into segment mode, you right click on the clip and you get add timeline clip notes.
So you still have to go into segment mode.
Correct.
And that shows up in the timeline.
And that could, if you turn that on in the view, or under tools, there are timeline clip notes that come up like markers.
Oh, it's not actually next to the clip's name. Okay.
Correct. Okay, so that was new at 881. This is actually kind of nice as well. Hold on one second. Let me bring up a.
Does the EDL manager, or list manager, whatever the heck it is now, will it say?
List tool.
List tool. And, you know, you have the options of what to show, and markers, does it say comments still? Because sometimes it still says locators.
Well, let's take a look. The list tool, by the way, if you haven't seen this, is now redesigned. It's a combination of EDL Manager and FilmScribe because it's now a 64-bit application. So it was actually redesigned. And the nice thing about this is it's a live document. So if you do have a sequence for EDL, you can go in and change clip names. You can change reel names or take numbers, find, replace all, change anything. And you can also have multiple instances of this app if you want to do comparisons. Yes?
Can you do a rebalance note on it now?
Change list?
I don't know. You should be able to do a change list. I don't know about a rebalance. So you'll see all of your options depending on what you select. XML, your assembly, your opticals.
Change this.
So change list will come up there. Change list. So pull, optical, so anything, I don't have a sequence up, but you would just hit input. You can drag and drop your sequences here, old sequence, new sequence to give your change list. Preview it, and then this is where you can go in and make any of your changes, change the font size, or do your find and replace on that. I'm trying to find a sequence that is a little more robust. Let me see.
Make a copy of that one, make some changes.
I have, bear with me 1 second. We use offline, which is fine, but I just wanted to show, you know, some cuts. So if I go to my list tool, drag and drop sequence or press load, it loads and lets me choose the tracks that I want, and preview brings up my list. So again, here, if I wanted to make any changes to any information, clip names, take, reel, anything, you can actually do that because it is a live document. Okay. We'll get into some of this later, but all of your list options, everything is set right here. But again, it's a combination of if you want XML or any of your tab lists, any of your FilmScribe stuff, or your standard EDL information. And you can have multiple list tools if you're trying again to do comparisons between multiple windows. Again, a new application, really nicely designed and a lot faster, a lot more control.
Quick question.
Uh-huh.
In your choices up there, file, edit, bin, clip, it used to have special, right? For video mixdown and audio mixdown?
That's part of the simplification of the menu. So mixdown and all of that is now under timeline because we're thinking that's a timeline function.
Okay.
So there's your mixdowns. By the way, with audio, if you didn't know, there is a new option, and I forget when this was provided, to do multiple mixdowns for your audio. So rather than creating a 5.1 or a certain set, you can create in one window all of your audio multiple mixdowns by simply saying, I want to select these 2 tracks. I want to create another mix here of these. I want to create a 5.1 of all of these. So you're just choosing your multiple mixes, and then when I go and create this, when I mix it, it's going to create 3 independent mixdowns of the audio
At the same
that I
time.
cut in.
Oh,
At the same time.
nice.
Okay. So, and I
And
think
does it take longer?
no, it's actually rather fast.
So because it's like real time, like while it's
Right.
recording, it's like putting data in different tracks.
Really fast. And you can save these as presets, so you don't have to keep setting this up each time. And this, I think, was in version 7, so I think you might have that in early versions. That's not an 8.8 feature.
Does the list tool come with 881?
Yes.
Do you have to, this is going back hundreds of years, do you have to install it first? Like
No.
FilmScribe had to install.
EDL Manager and FilmScribe are not a separate install, it's now all combined.
Okay.
So you get List Manager, and it's one of the latest, I want to say 7 or even, it might have been version 7. So if you go to Tools and see List Manager, EDL Manager and FilmScribe are no longer being developed because those are 32-bit applications.
Okay.
FilmScribe is the combo. Along the lines of the audio tool, if I go to my audio mixer, what I also want to point out, because we now do 64 tracks of audio, 64 tracks, not voices. I think that people get confused because you're like, oh, you had 64. No, we had 64 voices where you still had 32 physical tracks, but you had, if you did 5.1 and 7.1, you could hear 64. Now you actually have 64 real tracks and 64 voices. So if you start adding all of those to your timeline, you tend to get a audio mixer, which takes up
It's like
a load
Sony
of your
and, Cary Grant.
display, right? So one thing we started doing, or we did, was we now added these little triangles, these little pull-down windows. So if you want to close part of your display because you're not really concerned with that, you can actually close it to not show more of the tracks. Excuse me. Also, we've added audio grouping. So just for display or just for grabbing, you can actually go in and create audio groups of dialogue, of sound effects, and all that. So that when you create your group, you can choose what tracks you want. You can give it a name. And it creates a group here, and you'll see, depending on what you select.
Yeah, like Pro Tools.
Mhm.
Now, my question is about the track, the overall volume, the audio gain of one track. Because I know that you have to park on one clip that was already has an audio gain, and then put it in and out, and then set the volume. Isn't there like a universal, like, okay, I want A7 to have 5 dB higher across the board without having me to put what?
I was going to show something that.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I like that.
I don't know if it's going to give you that much control, but we have a new feature called audio ducking.
And it's just on 8.8?
No,
Starts
think
from.
I don't know. Is it 7? Does anybody know?
Okay, but it's still 8.
Yes, it's
Okay.
still 8. So audio ducking, and this might be something that may help in what you're thinking, is if you have, and I actually have a sequence here, audio duck, that if I have, and sorry for taking, or driving people crazy with a little bit of La La Land, but.
You all heard what happened in London.
So, it doesn't make sense in it actually works really well with this piece. So what I can do is audio ducking is a fast way to choose a dialogue track and a music track, and it'll automatically keyframe when the audio is speaking.
Live. It dips
It
when there is, oh my
Can you
God, I
adjust the
like
amount
that.
of dip and that kind of stuff?
You can choose the tolerance and stuff, but I'll show you how it works.
Yes, please.
So if you go to audio ducking, there it is. It's not like automatic duck.
Yeah.
Audio ducking. Okay?
Goodness call.
So what you're doing is you're choosing your dialogue tracks and you're choosing your music tracks. All right? And then you'll see down here is the advanced area where you can actually change the tolerance depending on what you see. So the idea is it's for those, times you don't want to have to go in and mark keyframes and drag it down. So if I choose my audio, which is just on A1, and my music is on 3 and 4, and hit duck, watch what happens.
Wow.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't have to be music, but for example, I have a mix down of everything in there.
It's using music as an overall.
So it doesn't have to be music, it's just one track. Can you give the tolerance of the fade?
The target was a Starfleet
You hear
data
tipping.
archive. Now it's
Yeah.
automatic.
Can you just give the tolerance of the fade?
I mean, you can control it. Again, it's going to get as close as possible. I was just using the default. But depending on what you choose, as far as your threshold and your music track parameters, it'll actually either smooth it down or change how much
48
it's getting.
frames is a lot.
I mean, that's pretty good. That's actually the first time I've really done it, choosing something real. I usually just drop something in, and I was blown away that it actually worked. Not that it worked as far as media composer, well, it worked as far as the clip and the sequence that I was using.
Creatively, did it work?
Exactly, it did.
And which version has this? Just 8.8?
Audio ducking, no, I think it's 8, I want to say 8.4.
Okay.
Probably. Or in 8 mid-range.
Can you make adjustments
Absolutely.
on the timeline though?
Yeah. You can still go in if you, get out of here. You can still make any adjustments to that.
And you can move them left or right?
You have to hold down a modifier.
Option.
Option.
Yes. That'll do it.
And what if you go in and make an edit in something? You have to rerun it?
Right. If you do, then I would just, you can either rerun it or, depending on what your settings are for changing, if it's elastic or not with the audio. Then
Even if you keep it in sync, if you get the bar thing in there in sync?
Or I would, if I was to chop it, make sure I chopped everything so everything would still stay
Oh,
live.
if you chopped everything in.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Anyway, audio ducking, really neat. Just out of curiosity, and again, another thing I'd like to talk about, Avid and media compose. Yes,
On the audio ducking, is it across your entire timeline or is it in and outs?
it's across the entire timeline. But it would be nice to be able to choose.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you just make a little.
Yeah, I don't think you get that option if you go to ducking.
Make a short sequence and do that, and then you can
It
drop
says
it in.
use
Oh yeah, there it is. Ta-da, sorry.
Marks.
Oh,
Done.
That was fast.
It's asking for something else.
Right, exactly.
You're a developer.
All right, you to the best. Great. This is how I learn as well. I always like to throw out also a funny thing. Do you know why the mark-in and out points are shaped like this? They're thumbnails. Because in film editing, when you took your strip of film out of the bin, you said, here's your in point to your out point.
Oh, cool.
I always say, it changed. These are more curved. These are now French tips. But so, cool. What other fun stuff? One thing that's interesting with FrameFlex, that I'd just like to point out that we added, is Z-rotation. Because we were able to go in and just change things on the X and Y. But the reason why I found out we did Z-rotation is
Do that
because of
shingles?
all the people who shoot wrong on their iPhones. I want to be able to turn it. We've added that.
You can make Dutch angles too, right?
Yeah. You can actually change this if you want to create like a look you can actually keyframe the Z rotation of the shot. So you'll see if you get handles here, you can actually modify that. Well, a question came up at break also that I wanted to mention. We talk about frame flex being used for video, but you can scan still images at high res. If you're doing a documentary, scan something and get a beautiful high res image of it. Use frame flex, and you can actually do pan and scan and moves on the high res image using frame flex.
And it's smooth?
And it's
No-
smooth.
no
Full,
tucking, no
full
jumps?
control.
Yeah.
Full control of movement. You can use the advanced keyframer to help move that around a little bit, but you're not losing quality because you're zooming in on the high res. Yes.
So you just, to import it, you just link to it?
You just link to it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Finally.
Did you say you just sleep with it?
You link to it. You link to it. Yes.
Sleep with it?
Don't sleep with it. You link to it. All right. Match frame track. Oh, this is another new feature. I'm sorry, I'm just going down like my list of things because there's so much to show in here, and I didn't realize I'd be spending so much time in some of these areas. Now, let me turn off my clip colors. Does everybody use clip colors?
Yes.
It's a nice way to go in and, let me see if I have source colors here. Perfect. So this is the actual timeline from this TV show, even though media says offline. What I want to show you are some really great selection tools. Because in the sequence, or up here, and I had this changed. By the way, there is a single keystroke for audio ducking. So you can actually map that to the keyboard. It's very funky. It's audio waveform with keyframes. It looks like a big mess, but yeah, it's all that they can go in the icon. But it is audio ducking. So here I have a timeline, and what was there were select everything to the left, select everything to the right, which were selection tools that were in other programs. But now, if I look at this sequence right here, and maybe I have all of my VFX that are one color, or I have audio one color, I want to find everything that's offline. If I go into a selection mode, and then I right-click and say, select everything with the same clip color.
Oh.
I select it, everything is selected. So I could move all of that stuff, or what I could do is right-click and create a sequence based on my selection.
Oh, that's for visual effects. When you
So
have
now
to,
it's going to isolate just, it could be, you could select everything randomly,
Wow.
you could choose it could be by clip color, it could be everything offline, it could be everything to the right, everything to the left. And what that'll do is it's now going to create a new sequence. We'll put it in the clips bin. So now, there it is. I double click, and the new sequence is only what was selected, still with the exact same time codes, timeline, and position that they occurred in the sequence. Okay? Yes?
Is that just in this version?
No, this was, I think, in a mid version 8. So if you right-click in your timeline and you see select, you have it. Again, I wish I had a better breakdown on where it is, but it's not just 8.8. Yes.
It doesn't have audio?
On the blue clips?
Well, on your original timeline selection that you brought these clips from,
Mhm.
was there audio attached that didn't just come in with your new?
No, because
There was no audio that was that blue color.
Okay.
If there was, then we would see that.
So the select everything to the right as a single key doesn't exist in 8.8?
It does.
It does.
You still have that option.
But there's
I
another way to do
I
it.
just mapped it with 2 other things up there because I like this selection better. Because if
Got it.
now I'm right here and whatever I have active, if I go to select, there is still a select to the right. So everything in common to the right, you now can create a
So you
selection.
have
to
2
the
ways of doing
Mhm.
that instead of just one.
Correct. It could be a key or it could be selecting in the timeline. Yes?
In the older versions, is there another way to do the same thing without right-clicking? Is it in another menu? You just still select?
To select to the right or the left or to do
Or
the...
no, select all clips of a particular color.
No.
Okay, thank you.
No, not in the timeline. That's strictly a new, one of the new options in version 8. Yeah, so again, that's select, and you'll see to left, to right, same source clip color, no source clip color, offline clips, clips with the same local color, or reverse. So you can select something and say, choose everything else than what's selected, and create a new sequence from that. Okay? A nice option there. Another thing that we've added is, and you may know this, if you select a clip and right-click, we do have mute and unmute. So if you do have a clip and you just want to turn it off just because you don't want it to be seen, mute it. And unmute it, we'll bring it back. You're trying to test out different effects. You can layer on different clips and just turn it off.
You can do that with audio too?
Correct.
And how long has this been?
Mute and unmute, I want to say version 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does that identify your timeline?
Sorry?
How does a muted clip identify the timeline?
Actually, it's gray and
It's
italic.
gray.
It's not a huge change, but
it's
yeah,
like
if I do this and say mute, you'll see it turns gray and the text is italic.
It's just visibility though, it'll still show up in the list?
Correct. But if you do an export, a QuickTime export or something, it won't show because that's muted. Okay. How are we doing time-wise? I don't want to, we're at 1:12. Go for a little longer, is that okay? All right. Try to get some more stuff in. Oh, this is actually really nice as well. If you go in and, let me take my amazing auto ducking here. And I want to turn on my waveforms. Now you know waveforms now are cached, so you don't have to wait half a day for the waveforms to draw on. We call that a break. Oh, waveforms drawing, waveforms. One thing we've done now, and you'll notice this when you move your sequence around, is in segment mode, you now see a ghost of your clips. So before it was just a wireframe. So you really had no indication of where the overlap was. So if I go and now move my audio, the cool thing is, let me just turn off my audio ducking here, is we now get a ghost with the waveform.
Oh, nice.
So that if you're trying to match audio to a certain area, you can actually see it. Cool. So that's not just an 8.8.1, that is, I think, a version 8 function.
I have a question.
Yes.
What about audio dupe detection?
Yeah. Did you read my notes? Because I swear I was just looking at audio dupe detection.
Do I get a dollar?
Get a dollar or a thing. So yeah, we now have audio dupe detection in your timeline. Let me find out where it is.
8.8, not before 8.8?
I think it's before 8. I think it was 8.7. Actually, I know it was 8.7 because I was showing it to somebody else. So if we go to, let's try. Audio. Might be timeline settings. Let me try that. Most likely.
It should be.
Wireframe dragging is where you can turn on and off your, if you want to see waveforms with the ghosting. And I know it's available.
It's in the
Go to the
hamburger
hamburger
menu in the
menu.
timeline setting.
Thank you very much. Do detection. There it is. Thank you. Yeah.
And it looks like a red line. How does it look like?
Let's see. Use match frame track. We'll take this. We'll drop it to the timeline. If I could. Yep. Red line. I think it changes. I think there's multiple colors like video when you start adding more.
All right, so it's on the hamburger dupe detection.
Correct. I love people still call it the hamburger.
Is it something else?
It's called the fast menu.
We are all
I like the
editors.
fast hamburger.
We are all editors.
People know the hamburger. Because it looks like a hamburger, but yeah, if you hover over it, it's called the fast menu.
We should bring back the guy with the weights.
And yes, believe me, I was just up in, at headquarters a couple weeks ago, and I said, can you just bring back the weightlifter? People who've been editing for a while understand what the weightlifter is, but the designers realized that people who were using Final Cut were like, I don't know what a weightlifter does. He lifts. You're lifting at it. So anyway, maybe there'll be a surprise or something, but I even get T-shirts with that.
I'm a true Avid editor. That's,
Right.
that's the new T-shirt.
Audio deep detection, great. Some other things to mention. Is anybody editing VR?
No.
Yeah, they're
Not
just starting
yet.
to hire it.
It's actually funny. Have you seen this? This is actually a really cool thing for your iPhones. It's a VR camera. So if anybody hasn't seen VR and how it shoots, it's a really cool function. Let's see if I can find it. So with this on, probably out of power. I actually shot this earlier. Bless you. Bless you. But you'll see, I shot the room earlier, so it shoots basically 360. So it's double lens, it's shooting everything at the same time, so that's what people are doing. And everyone's like, well, Premiere can edit 360, can Avid. But Premiere's using a plugin, so are we. So if you are doing 360, or if you even want to, it's the same thing with 3D. Is anybody doing any 3D? So 3D is something that people are like, I never want to do it, but I mean, I'm a huge fan of 3D. I love 3D. But if you have, this is me walking with my camera in Burlington. Yes, a couple weeks ago there was still snow. The idea
From
is
North Carolina?
Burlington, Massachusetts.
Ah,
That's where Avid headquarters is. So here's your
Tisbury.
360, the single shot that is taken. And then Mocha makes the Mocha VR plugin for Media Composer, where you basically drop that on your clip, go into your effect editor, and then you're actually viewing 360. So you're actually scrolling around or editing in a 3D space. It actually stitches it all together. So the idea of 3D and how you're editing is it's an all immersive experience where if you're editing and you hear something behind you, you turn around and you actually see what's happening behind you as well. It's big for gaming. There are some people who are actually editing content for that as well. And I think audio is doing that because if you're hearing something, you want to hear it behind you, it's going to draw your attention back there. So there are tools inside of Media Composer that you can get to be able to edit 360 media if you ever want to. But it's interesting. It's a new format. The new 3D, as they're calling it.
This world is going too fast for me.
What's that?
This world is going too fast for me.
It's crazy. There's a lot out there. That track. Has anyone used, and I talk about this every now and then, the subcap effect?
Yes.
Open captioning? Has anyone not and want to see it real quick?
What is that?
Okay.
I use it, but I want to see.
The open captioning, we talk about closed captioning. By the way, Avid can do and see closed caption data. So if you take a sequence and open up a Avid, a Mac caption or a data file which has closed captioning, there is an option when you right-click on your bin or sequence to show captions. So you'll actually be able to see closed caption in a data track on your Avid timeline. It's just something that's new. The other part of that is open captions or subtitles. A lot of people will go in and just create a title for every subtitle, which creates how many titles in your bin, all right? So what this option or subcap does, and this is actually a really amazing tool, it's in your generator, effects, There it is. Subcap. All right. So I'm going to just take one of my other sequences here. Go back to Star Trek. All right. And let's say I want to add some subtitles to this mess right here. Actually, we'll go ahead and just drop something else. All right. So I'm going to go and create a new track. And on that new track, I'm going to do, and there's a couple of ways to do this. I'm going to go to my effect editor. We'll take the subcap option and drop it on the upper layer. Okay? So now what I can do is just chop up that upper layer. I'm just doing this without, really listening or watching. Just chopping that up where I think some subcaptions, some subtitles might be going. And then I'm going to select these and lift them just to break up. All right? So I just created areas where I think my subtitles are going to go. So now when I go into the effect editor, I can go in and start typing in the seated, inserted. All right, that's number one. If I take a look here, monitor, you'll see it's in that upper area. I just need to go in and create a look. So I'm just going to go to each of these and type in garbage, great perk, and one more, and scene. All right, so here I have some titles. You can go in and create a look just by opening up your track appearance. We can make a bigger font. We can change position. We can change the opacity of the background box. All right, so I just created a look, and now I'm going to take that look and I'm going to apply that style sheet to be on everything. Okay, so now you'll see that's all my titles. So I just created in one effect a real-time subtitle.
Yes.
You can still go in and trim it, change your position.
But first you have to put the filler in a new track.
That's just one way you can mark it
Then
up.
you have to look at the thing and just put the cuts every time they talk, in and out, lift everything.
This is one way. What I'm doing now is I'm just creating a template.
Yeah.
Okay? So I've gone in and I've created this look with this subtitles. If I go into the effect editor now and I click on I want to bring up here it is, edit master caption list. Look at this. This is now showing me the track that it's on, the time codes, and what's being said, or what I have as a subtitle. So I could go in here and change these. When I save that out, you'll see that that now is saved and changed there. What we also have is I'm going to export this caption data. I'm going to call it Star Trek 1. We'll put it on desktop. On my desktop. All right? So what I did is I just created Oops, oh, I didn't save it as the right format. We'll go back to it again. Export caption data as a TXT, ST1. There we go. So I just created a file. This is a single file written with the Avid Caption plugin. Subtitles begin, in time, out time, what's being said, space, in time, out time, what's being said, space, in time, out time, what's being said. You could actually do an output of a QuickTime file with timecode burn in, go in and manually type this text file, which gives you the in points, out points, and what's being said, and then watch this. I go back to Media Composer. I'm going to delete this track right here. Just bring it back in. I'm going to drop subcap back on the top here, but now import caption data. So now I choose from the desktop ST1 TXT. Watch what happens. It has taken into consideration the in and out time code and what's being said and dropped in that one track what's being said. Yes?
Since you guys bought the technology for the audio, for the phrase finding, the script syncing, could you then just reverse the speech in the timeline to then make the into the subcat?
That would be really nice. People have asked for that. It would be nice if that would happen. I don't know if it's on the roadmap, but you would think that we would be able to do transcription from the audio and be able to drop that in. So we'll see where that goes. I don't know where it is, but it's a nice feature request. Yes?
Do you see any use for the old title tool, considering how robust subcat is?
It depends on how you want to use it. I mean, the nice thing about this is it's a really condensed single file that it's not going to create 30 to hundreds of different titles that you had to keep going back in, and if you make a change on those, it recreates a new one. Here, you can just go back to the text file.
With subcap is that you go back to that file with all the list of things you can make quick changes there.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's back in your timeline. So it's actually
Or you could do it in the effect palette. Just go right and change the
You can
dialogue.
also import a translation.
Correct.
That's done by a vendor.
Exactly. So yeah, that could be imported, and Lane's, again, is just giving you a nice option for creating open captions. Yes.
And then is Marquee gone?
Marquee is still there. Whether people like it or not. Yeah, we offer 3 different title tools now. We have the old title tool, which unfortunately doesn't go higher than HD. So if you are doing higher than HD media or projects and you try to access the title tool, it's going to say install New Blue. And New Blue is our new titling tool that allows you to go in and create higher titles. Let me bring that up a little bit. For some reason, I don't think it's licensed where I'm actually being able to see it in my timeline. But what I can show you is at least how it works in the sense of, I'm just going to mark an area here that I want my title. And you'll see New Blue. I think if you buy Media Composer, you get New Blue 2.5 as an option. So I'm going to just take this titler and just drop it right here. So New Blue it's actually a very easy, really nice new titling tool. You'll see, very simple design. The nice thing is this duration is the duration of the title in your sequence when you mark it out. So if you scrub through here, you'll see the video change. You can go in and change things. You can also do multiple layers of titles and text in this window. You don't have to do it in Media Composer in the timeline. So if I come in and want to just create a simple title, type it in here. If you look under your styles, there's all sorts of styles that are pre-made. You just hover over them and you get to see what they look like. When you double click, it actually applies that look to that title. So now if you want to go in and change anything, you want to change size, you can do it here, you can do it in the window. You'll see if I move, it's actually showing the Avid media. So if you are trying to place things, you actually have some nice control there.
And so if you had several lines of text and you wanted them to be different sizes, they would just be different ones you would drop on.
Yep, so if I take this and move it up, if I go and add a new paragraph here, you'll see it adds new text. So now I can type in Avid, we can change that size, that can be a different font, you can go in and change, you know, any text to be different. You can even rotate it X and Y. Or if you turn and hit the globe here, you're actually working. Ooh, 3D.
It just automatically extruded that?
Well, that font is extruded. If you click on this right here and you go to your style and say extrusion, where it's right here, you'll see it's extruding. Even that. Plus, you can control the bevel. You can create different looks. It can be pretty, you know, in depth. Plus, there's animation, and this is actually changing your layers. If I open this up, you'll see there's an automatic fade in. You can actually control the fade by just grabbing the handle. If it doesn't go away. On that. There we go. Should be there. So yeah, your fades and controls and animation can all be added.
And how much is the new blue?
Sorry?
That's an option, right?
New Blue, you should get 2.5 for free with Media Composer. I think they're on version 5 right now. When they start adding, they've just added more effects and more things inside the software. But as far as what it can do, as far as basic effects, is really, really easy and nice. Again, I'm probably not going to see it. It doesn't show it in my timeline for some reason. Even though I think I have it.
No.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not showing.
You had it for a second, for one frame.
Yeah, well, when you snap.
Oh, there it is.
There you
Okay. It was short. All right. There's another, I don't have any bad media, but has anybody seen, I just like to throw out plugins because a lot of people want to be able to fix problems with stuff that's coming in. I went and saw the editors of The Voice. Is anybody working with The Voice here? And they use this tool that they love called Neat Video. Have you seen or heard about this?
What's it called? What?
Neat Video. And what Neat Video does is it cleans up artifacts. And I'm just going to go to the web page because again I don't have clips, but I'd like to show stuff that it cleans up because I just hear that this is an amazing plugin for Media Composer. So looking at some examples here, things like before and after footage.
Wow.
Just to take this and choose the background and clean that up by just
It's
a click.
denoise, it's a denoise.
Yes.
How much is that?
$1 million?
Right, exactly. Not very
You
much.
can do that on
For AVX, $99.90.
$100.
I want to take.
$100. But yeah, I mean, just little
You can
things.
do it on Resolve.
If you take a look at, this was actually kind of amazing. So dust and scratches from before and after.
It's good for old footage.
Wow.
But I mean, just cleaning that up, looking at just all the noise here, just totally taken out. I mean, the voice, they were showing me, you know, the chairs that they're sitting in. A lot of times there's a lot of noise on the video because they're actually finishing DNX is what you're seeing. So to get rid of that, they put on some filter on the chairs. It totally smooths out everything. Just taking out a lot of
So do you think that would help if you have some footage that was recorded on like mini DV?
yeah. I mean, just anything. I mean, especially for documentary and any archival stuff, just to take that. I mean, that they were just singing praises. So, again, I like to share with people what other people are using to be able to fix some of this. Because a lot of times you're going into color correction mode and thinking, okay, well, I can use a filter in Boris or something to be able to fix that. When this is a, just grab the area and go apply.
And you put it on the timeline.
Yep.
We can do it for.
Yeah, I'll show you what it looks like. Again, I don't have it necessarily, working per se, because this is all good footage. But if you go to Neat Video, right here, and you drop the reduce noise effect on that, and then go into your effect mode, effect editor. All you're doing is you're choosing the area. It actually will tell you the noise level that it's sampling. Then you just process it. It gives you all the information.
Can you do it so it goes across the whole, like, hour cut?
I mean, it might do that if it's one clip. It might be able to drop it on, a single layer. Again, I don't know how it's affecting if it is clip by clip.
Yeah,
but
it differs, but if you want, you can just like take the effect, put it on the bin, and then apply across the thing if you want.
The noise is different though sometimes in the different shots.
Different shots.
That's why you need to color correct.
But I mean, again, just to be able to do this and
What
so.
about on something where you do a photo blow up? You have to live with that photo.
Exactly.
You can still do this.
Yep.
So after I've manipulated it and blown it up and it's gone to tri-X grain.
I mean, I again, I've only looked at this for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So I haven't tried it on everything, but I would think if you're getting that artifacting on a DVE or something that, you're blowing up a little bit and you throw this on, it should clean it up. Or again, you're getting, stuff that just wasn't shot well or stuff that, is a little moire pattern or something like that, just to clean up any dust and artifacting. I suggest this.
So we'll do something with moire, they said?
I believe it will fix all sorts of noise that it's trying to find there. Again, I haven't tried everything, but to hear from multiple people, including, Voice and these other groups that they use this, again, plugins. We can't do everything as Avid Media Composer. We'll try to, but we always rely on the people who do this other stuff well. Like Baselight is a plugin which is great inside of Media Composer. If you haven't seen that, it's just as easy as if I was to take just take a shot right here. Drop that in. And I just want to do some tracking on, Peter Weller's head using the Baselight plugin. It's Film Light. And also what might be nice, depending on how you want to move ahead with other stuff with Media Composer, I'd love to even find out from you all, and we can talk to Dieter or Sharon or anybody here and say, I'd really like to see this plugin with Media Composer and how it works. Maybe do some more sessions with plugins and people who actually know how to use all the parts of the plugins to actually take you through some of this. But Baselight is just really nice because it's Baselight inside of Media Composer. So a lot of great control there, and where you don't have power windows and being able to do multiple layers inside of Media Composer easily without doing an animat. This is just really fantastic because you can do all sorts of shapes here with tracking. So if I go to my area tracking and want to track forward, you'll see that the tracking is fast and easy, and also it takes into consideration camera movement and position. So if you draw a shape on something and the camera pans in and out, it actually would do its best to change the shape to track the area that it's trying to find. And this is a plugin, I think it's maybe less than $1,000 inside of Media Composer. So you're not leaving Media Composer, you're launching the plugin, it's using the Avid Media, and being able to now go in and say just take the shape, move it over here, the shape has been tracked. You're seeing that even when he moves his head a little bit, it moves. Now it is off a little bit, but if I go in to change the color, and again I'm just going to make one change just to show you, once I go back to Avid, the shape is there, and that's tracked for the time. The problem is it was on, I didn't do a reverse tracking, there is reverse tracking, but forward reverse tracking, and you can do multiple layers. So if you needed to change the color of the sky without affecting the head, then you wanted to change the person's head and have that being a different thing, multiple layers of color correction with
Was there a
base light.
token of feather with that?
Yeah, there's feathering control, there's vignetting. If instead of using that shape, I went to do a vignette. So we come over here, we go back into the shapes. When I go into my shapes, I choose quick shape. So the quick shape, the vignette, will let me go in and choose a small feathered shape right there. Again, I could track that shape. Here's forwards. If I go back here and say reverse, so now it's tracked the whole clip. Then go back to the shape, and it'll just change. You see how it's now vignetted? It's a little softer. I could have made it smaller, but that now has changed, and I've tracked the whole.
The target was a Starfleet data archive, now it's a damn hole in the ground, man, it did.
So, again, the baseline plugin just, again, gives you that higher level of control inside Media Composer. As far as exporting, there are options, there are ways to export. We have two different versions. Again, when you are starting to work with higher than HD or sending stuff to VFX, the standard for exporting allows you to do your AAFs, your QuickTime, your HDV, XDCAM, but there is an option. It's actually not an option, it's one selection. Even though I said we don't do AMA anymore, there is an AMA file export. I think engineering just kept it that way. And what this allows you to do is export DPX and OP1A. So if somebody will accept an OP1A 2K file for deliverable, you can export a higher than HD OP1A file.
And
Or
the DPX, how big is the DPX?
DPX. If you're in a 4K environment and maybe you
4K.
want to send something to VFX, you could send somebody 1,000 DPX files that they could send to another device, do their changes, give you DPX back, because you can link to DPX inside a Media Composer at different resolutions. So again, different options for creating.
How long does it take?
Depends.
A day?
I don't think a day. I mean, it will take some time. Unfortunately, there's no background exporting, and a major feature request is background saving. You can only do background rendering and background transcoding at this point. So, but hopefully some of those other things at.
Is the background transcoding automatic, or is it a setting?
It's a setting.
It is.
So when you go to do a transcode, run it backwards.
Okay.
Now, a nice thing with this that some people didn't know is if I go to say, we'll transcode this and run it in the background, we'll let it go ahead and transcode. What's happening there? Oh, it's already there. Let me try something. Hold on one second. The source browser. All right, so I'm going to do a transcode on this. And when I go to transcode and run in background, you'll see, of course, it makes a clip because it has to process. If you go to your background transcoding services, which on the Mac is right here, and go open background queue, it's actually going to give you a link where you can actually see where things are running in the background. So if you need to see if you have time to do something else or are still waiting, you get a list. If I have 30 clips that are being transcoded in the background, you'd see all 30 and what the progress is of each of those in the background. So again, it's nice to know you're not just sitting there waiting, when is this going to be done? You can actually bring up a queue.
It's been around since 7.
Yeah. That's been around since we did the background services. Also, dynamic media folders, if you've seen those, let you create media by creating a watch folder. You can just drop stuff in and let it process. One thing that has been added, if you take a look, or a couple things, if we take a look at the media tool, you'll see we can do a media tool to find master clips, AMA linked media, pre-computes of rendered effects, and pre-computes of titles and mats. So if you need to find all of your title and mats to clean up some space, you can do that. And we now can do a match frame to titles and mats.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you. So yeah, that was a nice addition.
On 8.8.
No, it actually was an 8.7. Should be able to do it.
Then I have less than 8.7.
Couple other things of note, nothing major. Changing background color. If you right click on your bin, there is a, where is it? There should be. Yeah, set background color. Another thing to note, when you see any of the little color bars here, if you hold down Option and click when you're doing that, you don't just get the 16 colors we give you. You can actually choose more colors. Now, the reason why you might see some darkness in the display when you are choosing colors, depending on the color you choose, is because depending on your interface, if we choose a lighter interface, you'll just see brighter colors there. So that might be why you're like, I don't like that shade. That's just because of the interface view.
Is that the same for if you want to have the full range of colors for clips?
Yes. Yeah, anytime you see that, if you hold down, I believe it's Option, when you go into click the color, it should bring up the same control. So if you go to, change the clip color, you can see this. Fast menu.
So you're clicking.
You hold down Option as you go to click the clip color. Okay. So don't do it when the colors come up and hold down Option, it'll go away. It's a little tricky.
Can you save it so it's easy access, or do you have to go through that whole process all over?
Unfortunately, you have to go through that. That's a little back door to get into your color swatches. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, any other questions?
Can you walk your dog?
I need to walk my dog.
I have a question.
Yes.
I ask this every year, and everybody, it never happens. And I wonder if I'm the only one who ever asks for this feature where if you have 16 tracks of audio and you hover over a clip in the track and you don't know what track you're on, it would be nice if that track lit up or something, so you don't have to go, okay, that's track, that's A12 or something.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever asked?
Yes. Have to scroll.
We're doing that on purpose.
I haven't heard of that, but did you write that down on the feature card? I mean, again, it's all stuff, again, I can list and send to the
Isn't there an
designers.
info thing? Shouldn't be on the info, like if you right click, shouldn't come
I don't
up
know if
like
there's info on the.
In the timeline?
in the timeline?
But that's more clicking.
What's this? I mean, unless you want to say, you want to highlight what track
If you ever
is.
hovered over that,
Right.
that track, you're on track A12 or A11, and you don't have to go, move over your cursor to.
Huh.
Like a quick tip or a tool tip.
Yeah.
Info, I
Something
keep
like if you
info.
hover over it, if it pops up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or it lights up, and the whole track lights up or something.
Get position info.
We have 2 clips.
Yeah, you have two highlighted, you should have just one to find out.
And by the way, you know about this?
Yeah.
That does throw people
I
off.
wasted
If you
one
deselect that,
day.
it'll let you choose
Yeah, I
individuals.
wasted one day.
So get position info, I mean, it's showing position. It's not showing single.
I'm sorry, do you just wanna know like which track you're like the clip
But
is?
yeah, if you have a massive timeline this way, you just wanna know what audio track you're on.
If you
If
deselect all everything?
you deselect all your tracks and then select that clip, will it highlight the track?
Yes, that should.
But that's more clicky.
It is,
Like,
but
less
then you don't
clicking.
have to backtrack. I mean, it would be, shift
Oh, like
command
that.
A to deselect everything and then click on the clip itself. You're not having to backtrack all the way back to the left. It is a workaround.
Yeah, but that she wants,
I know.
she doesn't want to
I
leave
get
the
it.
position where
I
she's
get
in.
Yeah.
She should be able to stay where she is.
I'll jot that down as
Yeah.
well. Thank you all for your time. Does anybody have any other questions before I?
That's it.
Yes.
Well, now a lot of places are asking for closed captioning. Any of that coming in the future, do you think?
You can actually view captions now inside of Media Composer. So if you have
I
a,
saw how you made them, but I was thinking automatic closed caption of your final.
not
Using
automatic.
phrase find. I don't.
Maybe that would be stuff that could be developed with,
Yeah.
our phrase find script sync technology, but.
Yeah, it seems like it could do it.